What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another day of 30 NSG. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the FTC. We're going to talk about a little bit of, we're jumping around. We're going into some Twitter news, Twitter stories. We're going to be jumping into Xbox, who they've been buying or who they were going to buy. So we're taking clips of the FTC type of, Jesus Christ, court case. And breaking it down a little bit, just having a conversation. This is not about taking one side or the other. This is about just reading it and having a conversation about what's happening over in the FTC the last couple of days. We're going to talk about Multiversus. Multiversus is a game that came out. They launched it. They made people buy stuff, buy skins, buy founders packs, buy all this stuff. And then they decided that they're going to close it down until next year, until they're ready to come out with the full launch, which we'll have a conversation about that as well. And then we have a video that we're going to watch as far as talking about nobody wants to take Nintendo. PlayStation doesn't want to talk about Nintendo. Xbox doesn't want to talk about Nintendo. They both make their cases in certain ways, but they don't want to include Nintendo in any way, shape, or form to make themselves both look better, which I thought was pretty funny. So we're going to talk about that as well. If you like these type of stuff, please make sure you hit that like button down below. Hit the subscribe button. It's absolutely free. And if you'd like to go above and beyond that, you become a member as little as $5. What's going on, boss? What's going on, Travis? Dave Rose? Buddha Papa? How you guys doing this morning? Boss says, how the hell do you release a game and it's offline for a long time? I agree 100% with you, boss, as far as... I know what game you're talking about. You're talking about Diablo. Okay? You're talking about Diablo. I hate the fact that all games, well, not all games, but majority of games are online now, okay, all the time, and they need you to be online all the time, and it pisses me off. It pisses me off because you already paid. You already paid for the game, but yet you don't own the game. You paid for a ability to play the game when they decide to let you play the game. And because it's online and it's incomplete and unfinished, they have to make fixes because they got DDoS attacked and everything else. So, yeah, that's just what it is. Kuda Papa says, the FTC and how are they being bought off by Sony? Bust like Bethesda. I mean, maybe because Nintendo is untouchable. I say it all the time, Travis. I say it all the time. What's going on, Jesse? I say it all the time. I go, there's Sony, there's Xbox, and then there's crazy Uncle Nintendo. Crazy Uncle Nintendo gets to do whatever they want in the thing. Let's start off. Let's start off with this this video from Spawn Wave Plus. Okay, he goes over the information. Right, I watched very little bit of it in the beginning. I haven't watched it at all, like the whole way through. So let's watch it together, and then we'll stop it and make comments as we go along.
So if you haven't really been following the Microsoft, Activision Blizzard, FTC situation, I don't really blame you because all the stuff that's been going on really over the last year or so, especially with the CMA and a lot of...
I'm kind of done with this. I don't really want to cover it, but it's coming to a close, hopefully. So hopefully one side or the other gets their way.
Information getting out there was getting kind of tedious, and I think people were starting to lose interest. But now would be the time to pay attention to what's happening.
I'm paying attention.
They're actually in the courtroom with different hearings, and a lot of interesting stuff is coming out of this. And one thing in particular is kind of funny, as it appears the FTC is doing their best to make any kind of sense as to what the Switch is, and I wanted to take a quick look at that here today. So if you guys enjoy the video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you're new here to the Spawn Wave Plus channel. So I'll give a shout out to The Verge because they've been doing a very good job following this as information comes out during these hearings. So I would recommend following them over on their website or with Tom Warren on Twitter. They kind of post up these kind of snapshots of different things that are happening on The Verge. And then he also tweets about them there over on Twitter. So this one in particular has to do with the FTC trying to paint the picture that there is no Nintendo platform in this case. Like,
there's no Nintendo platform in this case, because if we bring Nintendo into this, if we bring Nintendo into this, then it completely invalidates everything we're trying to make a point on.
In the snapshot they're taking of the gaming market, it's just Sony and it's just Microsoft. And the FTC side does seem more like the Sony defense side, and people have pointed that out. It's hard to push back on that one just based on some of the things that they've been saying here in this entire hearing. But as they go along,
is he gonna read this?
They mentioned the Switch was designed for people to take on the go. This is Phil Spencer responding to them as the Switch continued to come up, saying as a battery, it's a mobile platform. People take it with them, whereas the Gen 8, the Xbox One consoles require that they're plugged into the wall and don't have a screen. Nintendo built a different platform, and the FTC is mostly taking the route of hardware. So in this case, saying that the terms of CPU and GPU would be more akin to a Gen 8 device, and yeah, I mean, that would be correct, right? Like, I don't think anyone looks at the Xbox Series X or the PlayStation 5 and believes that the Switch is on necessarily the same level in terms of hardware. A lot of the comparisons drawn for the Switch go back to the
You know, it's almost like, give me one sec. It's almost like Nintendo knew ahead of time, right? They're like, do you see what Sony's doing? Do you see what Microsoft is doing? They're making these big teraflop systems. What about if we make a mobile system and just let them be? Let them fight it out and argue over each other. And we'll make this mobile system, and we'll be over on this own little corner. Oh, and by the way, we'll make a little dock that you can put in so we can also compete with it in the living room, but it's also a mobile device, right? It's pretty, 4D chess for Nintendo.
PS4 and the Xbox Series. And even then, games that moved over from those platforms to the Switch, like Doom, for example, had like the frame rate cut in half and the resolution dropped. But yes, it could still run the same games, and it kind of fit in there. And I know people look at it as, okay,
it's not about competing. You're looking at it, boss, as competing with gamers. I'm talking about the company itself competing in the market as people play video games, right? So while these two companies were battling it out, Nintendo's like, yeah, we're just going to go over here, and we'll just, as a convenience, we'll put it in a dock so you can play it on your TV. It's not about the 60 frames, 4K, nothing like that. It's just about competing in the gaming market.
The release schedule, Nintendo was kind of off from what Microsoft and Sony were doing, so it basically came out after the PS4 Pro and then the Xbox One X was coming up. So it's kind of in between those two generations. However, it is technically the newest platform from Nintendo that, if you walk into a store, sells alongside the Xbox Series and the PlayStation 5 at your Best Buys and your Targets, and consistently outsells them at this point. Yeah, like we see it in the MPDs at times, see it obviously in Japan, while the PS5 has been picking up a lot of steam. The Switch, especially for how old it is, continues to sell and at times takes that top spot. My favorite part, though, is that they bring up flops in the courtroom, the Xbox X. So not like this.
Who's got 10th place ribbon, though, boss? Are you listening to what we're having a conversation about right now? We're talking about the FTC trying to knock out Nintendo to make their point across between PlayStation and Xbox. Right? The conversation. Hello? The conversation right at this moment is about the Nintendo Switch. It competes. It's inside the gaming market. It's literally beating both consoles, and it's a double the old system. It's 6 years old.
Series X.
You're so sucking the dick of Sony that you're not even listening to the conversation that we're having right now about the Nintendo Switch.
Xbox X metric operates higher flops than Switch, and Phil Spencer says that's fair to say, which, yeah, I mean, again, if you put everything down, write it down on paper, sure, the Xbox Series X is a pretty large leap from what the Switch is, but as we've seen, Mortal Kombat 1, it's going to release on the Xbox Series X. It's also going to release on the Switch. That's probably the best counter to a lot of this, is you can look at them however you want. They're both getting some of these third-party titles at the same time and really the same functionality outside of generally frame rate and resolution, details, visuals, all of that. Although it seems like Mortal Kombat 1 is going to be 60 frames on the Switch and 60 frames on the Xbox Series and PlayStation 5.
Mortal Kombat's going to be 60 frames on the Switch? Did he just say that? Did I hear that correctly?
frame rate and resolution, details, visuals, all of that. Although, it seems like Mortal Kombat 1 is going to be 60 frames on the Switch and 60 frames on the Xbox Series and PlayStation 5. So even those lines are getting more and more blurred there. But after all of that, they still came back to it because, again, the FTC desperately wants the Switch to not be part of this conversation at all, which we'll get back to here in a second. But they said it's incorrect. This is from Phil Spencer. It's incorrect to say Nintendo isn't a competitor. The PS5 and the Xbox Series X shipped at the same time from a form factor. These two functionally look more equivalent. And the reason he's saying this is because apparently they brought out props in the courtroom, which I assume is a PS5 and Xbox Series.
All right, hold on. I got to read this. We're back to the FTC and Microsoft arguing about the Switch. This is getting rather tedious now. The FTC and the console props in the courtroom try to show the Xbox Series X and S and the PlayStation 5 are very different to the Nintendo Switch. Incorrect to say Nintendo is a competitor, says Xbox chief Phil Spencer, and he comments on the visual appearance of the consoles in the courtroom. Quote, the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X ship at the same time from form factor, and these functionalities look more equivalent. Okay.
And a Switch. They just broke them out, I guess, from the suitcases and just put them on the table, desperately trying to make the appearances match up for the judge who's observing all of this. And
this is like this is like Pepsi and Coke, and then next to Pepsi and Coke is a glass of water, right? And they're like, sure, it's a liquid, but it's not a soda, and you can't. It's not competing with soda. But it's like, but it is competing with soda. It's liquid. People buy water, and they also buy soda, right? It's still in the market. People are still buying it. Hence why these companies also have water.
Probably
it's going to be
like just exacerbated from this argument that keeps coming up. And the reason the FTC obviously wants the Switch to not be part of it is because the entire way through this so far,
right, it's glacial
hearings has been a lot about Call of Duty and how they may take it away from PlayStation and make it exclusive on the cloud and all these different things. And the thing that really throws a wrench into their argument here is that Nintendo just doesn't have Call of Duty, and they're technically the most successful when it comes to sales. And even just outside of hardware, I mean...
Right, so listen to that point. So Sony, this whole time, and that's a whole completely different story with Jim Ryan saying that if we lose this, it's gonna kill us. But then before that came out last year, before they made the purchase, they said Call of Duty is fine, and we're fine if we don't have it. He's saying that, well, at least the FTC or whoever's trying to prove it in court, that Nintendo doesn't have Call of Duty, and they're fine, right? They're not only thriving in the gaming industry, they're one of the leaders of the industry overall, right? And they don't have Call of Duty at all on their system.
Software, they've crossed over 1 billion units sold there without a Call of Duty game, and that game comes out every single year and sells millions and millions of copies on PlayStation's platform. So if Nintendo is part of the pie there that they put up there, the big spreadsheet and all this, I mean, technically it would overtake either one of them, Microsoft or Sony right now with the sales and everything, especially over the last 5 or so years, and it would all be done without Call of Duty. Basically downplaying the argument that the FTC is really pushing that if Microsoft controls Activision Blizzard, they will be too powerful and unstoppable and able to control everything around gaming, whether it's hardware, software, sales, or even cloud subscriptions. But if Nintendo's there, it doesn't really hold up as well, which means you end up in this very...
Right. They're going to dominate the video game industry in the distant future where Nintendo doesn't exist in this distant future, right? And this is what the FTC is trying to say. If Xbox gets this, right? And this is me not taking sides. This is just me reading what they're saying. The FTC is trying to push that if Microsoft buys this, then the industry is going to be doom and gloom, and no one can compete. Meanwhile, that's them taking out Nintendo, because Nintendo is not the same as Xbox and PlayStation, right? But if Nintendo's in the platform, it invalidates what they're trying to say, because Nintendo is beating both of these companies while they're bickering at each other. Nintendo's in the background with their 30 frames per second mobile device, and they're selling like hotcakes.
Very odd dynamic of Microsoft trying to support Nintendo and say, no, they are competitors. People walk into a store, and if they buy a Switch, they might not then have enough money to buy an Xbox Series S.
And those are facts. If they buy a Switch, then they're not buying a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox.
Or an X or something. So Nintendo is technically, yes, competing with those other two platforms just by way of entertainment. It's a large sector, and Nintendo is part of it. Also, I just find it funny that these proceedings that are going on right now and the discussions being had at the witness stand sounding more and more like gaming Twitter arguing with itself. Now, I will say, while the FTC is pushing hard to make it look like the Nintendo just doesn't exist despite all of the sales success they've seen, it does have the possibility of backfiring on them after what we saw with the CMA, who did the same thing. Microsoft leaned into that and said, well, if we're taking Nintendo out of it, here's what the pie chart would look like if it's just Microsoft versus Sony in this region. And it was like 80% or something.
I love the pie chart. Where's the other company that's supposed to be in this chart? If you take Nintendo out, sure, Sony has 80% of the market.
Sony and this little sliver that's Microsoft, and they're like, are you backing this large piece of the pie who obviously controls the market?
Well, both these companies are idiots. This right here is just a straight up lie. Straight up lie. Right? Both companies. They're like, look, you're siding with the big guy because they own 80% of the market. Hello? You're missing a big chunk of that pie. Right? Where's Nintendo in this pie? If 80% is PlayStation and 20% is Microsoft, where's Nintendo in this pie?
Or are you going to allow us to purchase Activision Blizzard and attempt to fight back out of this massive hole that we're in? I mean, you're the one who took Nintendo.
It's like some intern was like, here, Smithy, take this and deduct Nintendo from this market and then just give their portion to the other side and then just say we have 20%. Or vice versa.
Out of this pie chart. So it's interesting. That may end up coming up later on, as there is quite a bit more to this courtroom case and these hearings that's going to span essentially the rest of this week. And we'll see how many more times Nintendo comes up and that the FTC attempts to bury them again.
Nintendo has its own pie. Microsoft and them share it. Yeah.
But let me know what you guys think about.
No overlap whatsoever. I don't own a Switch. Oh, wait, I do. Where am I on that pie chart?
All of this down below, especially with a lot of the information that's been coming out from just 2 days of hearings. We'll see what else we get this week. Thanks, guys, for watching.
It's so ridiculous. So ridiculous about the pie chart there. They're like, oh, yeah, that's it. You own a PlayStation 5? Oh, here we go. No, I don't own a PlayStation 5, boss. And we've already had this conversation why I don't own a PlayStation 5. Because the money I spent, I paid for a graphics card, which was the exact same price as a PlayStation 5. Stop sucking. That again. What, that again? What? I have $500. Can I magically make $500 into $1,000? Like, come on. You're being such a moron. You're being a moron. You're right. I've never owned PlayStation before in my entire life. That's why I have PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, and I have a PlayStation 4. But because I don't own a PlayStation 5, it negates the whole conversation. I am so tired of your stupid shit. The difference between me and you, Travis, this is my channel and my Discord. That's the difference. That's the difference. So let's go over to Microsoft here. Microsoft buying consideration. A list of... Yeah, but the difference of me feeding him and you feeding him is mine makes content. Remember that. Microsoft buyout consideration list include 100%, 100-plus game dev, Bungie, CD Projekt Red, and FromSoft. So let's look at this. Microsoft was considering a massive slate of video game developers and publishers as its potential acquisition targets for a new exhibit filing from the FTC versus Microsoft federal court case reveals. Before it settled on trying to Activision Blizzard at $68.7 billion, Microsoft had over 100 gaming companies on this list. M&A consideration. A list of part confidential internal Xbox Game Studio MA briefing from April of 2021. It was published as a public exhibit in the FTC versus Microsoft federal preliminary injunction case. In the side deck, which is woefully outdated by over 2 years, Microsoft outlines what is considered to be some of the top choices of potential mergers and acquisition buyouts in April of 2021, including Japanese game publisher Sega, Destiny and Halo developer Bungie, Elden Ring and Dark Souls developer FromSoft, Witcher and Cyberpunk's 2077 developer CD Projekt Red, No Man's Sky developer Hello Games, Hit developer IO Interactive, Crysis developer Crytek, Warframe developer Digital Extremes, Divinity and Boulder Gate 3's developer Control and Alan Wake developer Remedium Entertainment, Dying Light developer Techland, and Borderland developer Gearbox, and many more. Below we have a sample list of some of the most recognizable names in the slide deck. Note that portion of these studios are no longer available for acquisition, including Bungie, who was purchased by Sony Interactive Entertainment for $3.7 billion. So I made a video way back when saying that Microsoft was going to buy Bungie. It made sense because when they did what they did, Phil Spencer came out and said, my favorite company, blah, blah, blah. They were going to buy it. I also made a comment that they probably were overcharged too much, and they decided not to buy them, and then they went to go buy Bethesda, which they did. And now the information comes out that Bungie's price was too high, and that's why they didn't buy them, right? And I made the analogy, if you want to buy a house on the block and the house is too expensive, then you buy the other properties around that house to lower that for the comps, right? And that's exactly what they did for Bungie. Bungie wanted too much money for their company, and because they looked at what Bungie is and what Bethesda had with all the different IPs, because Bungie only has Destiny, right? Where Bethesda had multiple brands and multiple IPs. So for $7 billion, they decided to take that and lower the cost, and which was in favor because Bungie then got picked up by Sony Interactive. So CD Projekt Red was on the docket, right? And I've always said that you can bid on anybody. No one's for sale until they are, right? You put a number out there and people go, oh, well, I wasn't in the market for selling, but I'm sure that sounds really good. So CD Projekt Red, certain Infinity, Crytek, 4A Games by Embracer Group now, okay? And I love this, right? A lot of the companies that were for sale that Microsoft was going to buy because Microsoft bad, Embracer Group comes in and picks up multiple companies, okay? So Digital Extreme, FromSoft, Gearbox, Hello Games, IO, People Can Fly, right? And they're already making they already made a deal with them. They didn't buy People Can Fly, but they now brought them on as an exclusive for their next IP, whatever they're making. A lot of people are thinking they're helping with Gears of War or whatnot. Publishers 505 Games, Focus Home Interactive, Paradox Interactive. Ooh, that would have been huge. And then Sega. It is important to note that these companies were MA consideration and not final watch list. Microsoft only had a select few game devs on the final list, including Bungie, IO Interactive, Supergiant Games, and Thunderful. So that's pretty crazy. And again, if this deal, I mean, this is really like the backup list. Let's be honest, right? They went for the high end, and if they don't get Activision Blizzard, they're just going to go down this list. They're going to be like, all right, who can we get next? Who can we get next? Kuda Papa says, I still get over the disrespect for Microsoft threw at Sony by buying Bethesda, and Sony was trying to buy exclusively. It's just a rich story. Yeah, well, I don't know if they were trying to buy them out completely. I thought the story was, Kuda Papa, that they were trying to get Starfield exclusive for PlayStation, right? Not owning the company, but just paying them out for exclusivity for, a set period of time. I mean, it could be like a Final Fantasy thing. But I do find it funny that they throw a rock at the glass house, right? They're like, we were going to do it first, and now you're doing it, and it's not okay. right? Type of thing. Switches up to something else too. Question, do you think it will eventually get to the point where players say, screw it, I'll just stick to games I've played like Mass Effect because I know they are good instead of buying new games? No, because, I mean, yes and no. Yes, because people like you and me are older, and if you played those games, then you'll buy them. But then there's the new genre, the new blood that comes up, that they are going to buy new games. So are you talking about the state of people that are older? That's the people you're talking about? Or are you talking about the gaming as a whole? Wait for it. Bungie will only stay with Sony for like 5 years. I think Sony's going to use them to make what they need to make for the help with the 12 live service games. And we'll see. Bungie always has a problem with money. Always has a problem with money. They spend way too much, and then they have to leave the company or something happens. I openly installed apps off the market that was nothing to do with the Switch. I got my son baby games, got YouTube, and there was also their store. I think Nintendo is going to lose its grip soon. Lose its grip on what though, Dabstick? I bet Microsoft was getting ready to try and purchase one or more of these companies on this list, but then out of nowhere, Activision was available for sale, so they scrapped it all. I still think that you don't want to buy too many at the same time, just in case stuff like this happens, right? You want to have some money on the back end, even though they're a $1 trillion company and they have cash money they can pay literally for $70 billion, but they're not paying it at one lump sum. You know what I mean? They're paying it over time. So I think that you might be correct, but I do believe they have someone. As soon as Activision's done, they're going to purchase more. Because Unicron's got to eat, right? We always use the Unicron where they're munching up on planets and got to get stronger and bigger. So he eats on bigger planets. And that's anything. When EA picks up IPs and they destroy them and then eat their studio into their company, when Microsoft does it, when all these companies keep buying up smaller companies, they eat them up because they have to keep growing. The problem is Xbox is just a division of Microsoft. Microsoft is Unicron, and Unicron needs to eat. Every man's got a price. Everybody's got to pay. But because a $1 million man always gets his way. Ted DiBiase. The great Ted DiBiase. Man, I'm glad I have a computer and a PS5 so I can get the best of all the devs, because this is crazy. Buying devs and publishers have always happened, but it's good for longevity of gaming. Is it good for longevity? It's not. I don't like consolidation myself, Water, but it is what it is. Like, if you look back when we were kids, look at Blizzard buying Activision, right? Like, other companies get so big, and then they look for other things to buy, and then they buy another company, and then they get bigger and bigger. I mean, this is just the way it is. We're at the point now where there's just these massive conglomerate companies, and they're the ones that won out. You ever play that snake game? I forget what it's called. It's a snake game where you go around, you eat all the other smaller businesses or all their snakes, right? And then when your snake is so gigantic, basically you can't lose unless you slip up and make a mistake and run into yourself or something. Like, that's it. That's the whole analogy of the video game space. There can only be so many big snakes on the screen before they gobble up each other. Go on, Tiny Two. Good morning. I've been enjoying the inside baseball coming out for FTC versus Xbox court case. But glass shatters. So well, it's beautiful. Now when Take Two be on sale, or Take Two, nothing was said about Take Two. Now Gearbox was owned by Take Two, but then they sold off Gearbox and Embracer Group picked them up. Right? So there's little things. I don't know if Take Two will be for sale. The catalyst there, again, everyone's for sale at a right price. The big catalyst for Take Two is Rockstar. Without Rockstar, Take Two's buying, right? With Rockstar, they're not touchable. Because why would they? Especially especially with Grand Theft Auto 6 coming out. Now, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if we're not hearing anything about, and this is just a speculation, that we're not hearing anything about Grand Theft Auto 6 because there could be back-end deals trying to go on to make it exclusive for one console or the other. Okay? It'll be very interesting to see what happens with Grand Theft Auto 6 when it comes out. Even if it's for like a month, 2 months, 6 months, something's happening behind the scenes. And when it does come out, we'll hear something like 6 months to a year later that Grand Theft Auto 6 was trying to be scooped up by somebody. Yeah, they were buying them for exclusive games, and Microsoft was just like, let me buy the entire company. It kind of shows the power of Microsoft in a much larger company. Right. They wanted to get the exclusivity for the game, and Microsoft's like, if we keep letting them do this, you know what? Let's just buy it. And if we buy Bethesda, if we buy ZeniMax, we get multiple IPs that they can't take from us, and we can decide if we want to put it on their system or not. I mean, it doesn't make either one good. Buying exclusivity is bad, but buying a company to stop people buying exclusivity is also bad. I'm curious about Sega and Xbox partnership. I'm seeing Sega trying to combat Sony using Xbox. Yeah, it'd be interesting if they pick up Sega. That'd be another huge pickup. Come on, Super Dave. Except for all the same Sega games are Sony, so how is that hurting Sony? Except for all those same Sega games are on Sony, so how's that hurting Sony? It would hurt Sony because those Sega games wouldn't be on PlayStation anymore, based on PlayStation not wanting to work with them, right? Come on, Fate. I figured out why most Necromancers are not running optimally because they keep running Skeleton Crew. We have a buddy first. He got rid of his skulls. He said he didn't want to do it. You know why Bone Spear is such a fun build or funny build? Necros always use humors to cast it. Yeah, there's a lot of people that switched up and they don't use the bones at all, as we call them, the rolling bones. GTA 6 exclusive for Nintendo Switch. Can you imagine, Water? Can you imagine? That would be the most hilarious and stupid thing ever. Nintendo comes out and says, we have the exclusive rights for Grand Theft Auto 6 now on the Nintendo Switch. You can now play at 30 frames per second. The most beautiful city we've ever created now on the Switch. That would be hilarious. Also, Sony, and therefore, it doesn't make Sony players want to buy an Xbox. No, but again, it's not about making those people move over. It's about other people coming that don't own either system yet. You got to look at, there's a huge market, right? There's a huge market of gamers out there that don't own a PlayStation or don't own an Xbox, right? And they're looking to buy one. And if certain games start getting bought up by companies and then start to move to one platform or the other, those people are potential buyers, right? 3 billion people on planet Earth play video games, and only 200 million, I'm giving a big bump, right? 200 million people have a PlayStation, and like 100 million people have Xbox, right? If that, right? It's literally like 144 and like 80 or something like that. Okay, 80 million and 144 million. There's a lot of people in between that are just on mobile phones and on PCs and whatnot. So they want to get those, they want to get that clientele. If games got off PlayStation and went to Xbox only, I just wouldn't play them. No more, no big deal. Yeah, but the difference between what Microsoft is doing and what PlayStation's doing, right? Microsoft is buying companies up and putting it on their Xbox and PC simultaneously, right? Hence why they have Game Pass Ultimate and whatnot, and they also put it on the stores. So they're still putting it out to everybody, and you have a PC, boss, so it wouldn't really affect you if you wanted to play a game that wasn't on a PlayStation, only on Xbox, but it's also on PC, where PlayStation's buying it and only putting it on PlayStation, and then they put it on PC a year and a half afterwards. Except Sega has already said that they're going to stay on Sony. Sega isn't leaving Sony. That's the myth. Sega head said him and Sony have a great relationship. Travis, you understand, though, if Sega is Sega and then Microsoft buys Sega, then Sega doesn't matter the deals they have. They go bye-bye based on the new house rules. You own a house, it's your house. But if you can't pay your payments on that house and someone buys your house and then tells you to get the fuck out of your house, that person owns your house, right? So it doesn't really matter if Sega made deals or not with them because it would be purchased by another company. Right now, it's here nor there, but you saying that, well, Sega will never leave Sony, that's just false. Right? I mean, look at the deal with Bethesda. Bethesda was going to be on PlayStation 5 and Xbox and PC. Then they got bought. And then their new owner said, sorry, you're going to make exclusives for Xbox and PC. The console wars have evolved into content wars. Seems to me that they're snatching up UI mobile games. Yeah, they're. Oh, you're talking about Nintendo, Dapstick, or you're talking about Microsoft? PlayStation should team up with Apple and release on Macs. See how the gaming world goes crazy. Well, there was rumors back in the day when Sony was in trouble, like I think it was like 2013, 2014, that Apple might have bought PlayStation because Apple at that time was trying to get into the gaming market. They took a different turn. They decided not to get into the gaming space with Xbox and Sony, and they decided to get into the mobile space. Now Apple's actually winning. They're the leaders of the mobile space right now with their what's the Apple Store, Apple Arcade, I think it is. Not going to happen. Sega, they can still afford their house. I'll stake by it, or stay by it, saying that everyone has a price. And once Sega has their price, if they're for sale or if they're not for sale, once someone hits their price, they will be for sale. Everybody has a price. Exactly, Water. Everyone has a price. Rockstar probably worth almost $1 trillion. Seriously, though. How much is Rockstar worth alone? They are literally, they're the most profitable piece of entertainment. They can name their price, but the problem is, do they want to be... The reason they're so successful, Water, is because their game is on every platform. Right? It's on every platform. We're talking Grand Theft Auto 5 was on the 360, then the 1, and then the X. Was on the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and the PlayStation 5. One game across all of those systems. They're literally printing money. Didn't Microsoft help Sony during the time in 2013? I'm not sure, Tiny. I don't know that information. I'm starting to realize you sometimes see a wizard years after playing the game, like it takes years. Sure. Half those games and the showcase didn't even release. Some were already mobile games. Dapstick, I'm confused. You're talking about Microsoft. Okay, Microsoft. Well, Microsoft is trying to get into the mobile space. That's the whole reason they're buying Activision. That's the whole reason. They're not buying Activision for Call of Duty. They're literally buying Activision Blizzard King for King. They want the mobile space. They want the PC space. Blizzard is a PC company. King is a mobile company. And everything else is just bonus on top. That's why Microsoft is making the purchase of Activision Blizzard King. Microsoft was afraid to view as a monopoly if Sony pulled out of the gaming business. I guess, but they still wouldn't be a monopoly, because even if Sony fell off, Nintendo was 10 times the size of Xbox at that time. Like they were so successful, so it still wouldn't be considered a monopoly. Do you have an article or something that says that? Well, isn't COD as well? I think they go to one platform. They'll lose money, but they're not going to one platform. I don't understand where this is going. We know for a fact that Call of Duty, if Microsoft buys them, is not going to one platform. So why are we bringing that up? Activision purchase gives Microsoft several business options in mobile, cloud, and IP catalogs for Xbox. Yeah, and that's exactly why they're doing it. So let's look at the Tom Warren. This is an email. In 2019, an email, Xbox chief Phil Spencer compares Xbox to Polaroid and how Xbox consoles are like analog film in the mobile gaming digital photography, growing massively. He says that there's a need to have a mobile gaming company inside Microsoft, like what Activision is trying to do. So he says, yeah, that's exactly okay. So I think you and I talk past each other, one of those, and writing up a POV so we can align. First, we're exactly like Polaroid. We're a core gaming in which isn't growing analogs to film photographers, while mobile gaming, MAU, is growing WW at a significant rate, like digital photography was growing. We have no strategy to win organically in mobile gaming. I can come up with one. The only thing we can do is close all the Xbox stuff with all the same OpEx and try to start a mobile gaming company inside of Microsoft. This is the kind of what Bobby Kotick is trying to do with Activision or ATVI. Right? This was back in 2019. So this was the strategy before they even came out with their console. This was the shift, right? The shift was to move towards mobile gaming. They decided, well, why not make like a mobile type of thing, which is the cloud gaming, which is Game Pass. You could put on, on any televisions, put on the consoles, put on PCs, put on mobile devices, right? That's the play. I said it back then in 2019. Microsoft isn't going to buy Sega. Travis, at this point, I hope they do, just so I can go, you're wrong again. I would love that. I would love just so that happens, just so I can be like, yep, Travis is wrong again. It was interest from the court case because Phil stated that Microsoft purchased Sega. It will still keep publishing games for Sony. He felt it was better to build the games ecosystem. Well, that's what I just gave an example, though, Tiny. I said that when Xbox buys stuff, they're still putting it on all the platforms. If Sony buys stuff, they're trying to just keep it on their platform. Got another thing here. Bethesda Pete Hines, in the Eternal email in February 2022, asked Microsoft executive why Bethesda titles would be Xbox and PC only, but Microsoft would allow Activision Blizzard games like Call of Duty would remain on PlayStation. So let's see what it says here. It says, I'm confused. Is the below not the opposite of what we're doing, just told to do with their own titles? What's the difference? Emphasize in bold is mine from the blog post yesterday. First, some commentators have asked whether or not it will continue to make popular content like Activision Call of Duty available on competing platforms like Sony and PlayStation. Obvious concerns is that Microsoft could make the title available exclusively for Xbox consoles, undermining opportunities for Sony PlayStation users. To be clear, Microsoft will continue to make Call of Duty and other popular Activision titles available on PlayStation through the term of any existing agreement with Activision. And we have committed to Sony that we will also make them available on PlayStation beyond existing agreement, and if into the future of Sony fans can continue to enjoy games they love. We are also interested in taking similar steps to support Nintendo's successful platform. We believe this is the right thing for the industry, for gamers, and for the business. Did anyone at Xbox think about giving us heads up on this? Todd, going to DICE in a couple of weeks. You don't think that Jorno might find him pressed him on what is below is okay on COD or any Activision Blizzard games, but the Elder Scrolls 6 or Starfield or every future interview he does. So I think the play, I see the difference between what Nintendo has done from the 80s to now is that they built up their brands and their first party titles. Xbox really has never done that. Xbox has never really done that. In 2001, when Halo came out, then Gears came out, they had these IPs, but they didn't have the IPs like Nintendo. They don't have IPs like Sony. So now they bought these companies up, and they're trying to take those and adopt those as their main stake in the industry, right? So now they're going to take Starfield, the brand new IP that wasn't out before, right? They're not taking Fallout, right? Because Fallout's already been out there. Starfield's the first brand new IP that they're doing. They're making that the flagship for Xbox. They're making that the Mario, right? They're making that the God of War, the Spider-Man for their console. Is it right? No, but it's also not just on Xbox. It is still coming to PC. Where just a couple years ago, nothing that Sony was doing was coming out on PC. Now they are, because now they've adapted. They've adapted, but it still doesn't come out day and date. So I see as Pete Hines is saying, he's like, dude, we're being blindsided here because we thought we were making stuff for all, and then all of a sudden you're saying Call of Duty can stay, but our games can't stay. And the difference with that is, Call of Duty makes a crap ton of money more than what Bethesda makes. Those are facts, right? And the reason they make that is because it's on all platforms. Even if Starfield's on all platforms, technically not, I shouldn't say Starfield, but Fallout, they maxed out at 12 mil. They maxed out at 13 mil. Call of Duty's in the 30s to 40. Xbox can't handle what they have now. Quit giving them more, 30. I'm not giving them shit, Travis. I just said, in spite you saying that they're not going to get Sega, I want them to get Sega now, just so I can say you're wrong. That was pretty prevalent when I said it. I have a friend who thinks Redfall was so bad and hopes it will make Starfield be, well, it's better than Redfall scenario. Instead, it's a good game. I actually see Bethesda's view in their minds that they could be like, you screwed us out of even more money. Well, this is also funny, right? Because Pete Hines says that we can't make it for all the systems, but yet they were in contract. Sony was trying to make them exclusive for PlayStation. So where's the email that Pete Hines would have wrote? Obviously he didn't, but where's the email that he would have wrote? Because this is in February of last year, 2022, right? But it's come out now that Sony was trying to get Starfield to be exclusive for PlayStation. So where's the article, or where's the email that Pete Hines would have went, hold on a second, we were making it for all the systems. He's still going to have an email that says this? You see what I'm saying? He's saying that they're upset because he wants to make it for all systems, but it came out that they were going to make it exclusive for PlayStation. There was a bid out there, and instead, Microsoft's like, no, we're buying the whole company. Can you imagine Activision back catalog being available to all the Xbox gaming studios? This is some quick, small game wins. Give me 1 second. Can you imagine Activision's back catalog being available on all Xbox Game Pass studios? There's some quick, small game wins. Lost Viking game from Blizzard. I mean, technically, the whole back catalog would go on. They could put that on Game Pass as well, right? Hypocritical much from Pete Hines? Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Like, it's come out that Sony was going to get exclusive to Starfield. They put it out there. But this email, which is after the where Sony was interested in buying them, right? Because they bought them in what, 2021? It was like 3 months before Microsoft made the bid that Sony was trying to make Starfield exclusive. And then now Pete Hines, a year or a couple months after that, is saying, well, wait a minute, I thought we were making the thing for all the systems. Reminds me of the scene in Boston Legal where Shatner tells them, we can't give them the papers. We shred them. Sure. We have it. Do it tonight. I hope Nintendo will end up with Sega. Sega games makes sense for Switch. Would be a dope combo. I mean, I don't think Nintendo's buying Sega. I don't think the only one trying to purchase Sega, I think, would be Microsoft. Nintendo doesn't need to buy Sega. They have a great relationship with Sega, and they're still making games with them. Clearly, the email was faked by his evil twin, Heinz Pete. That's right. I don't think Xbox had much choice, but you also buy studios outright to stay in the gaming business. What's telling you how Papa Microsoft wants back Xbox with Black? Yeah, well, look, they're both. I think there was a document, and don't quote me here, but I think I read a document. I don't know the whole thing. I think there was a document that Sony wanted to end Microsoft, and then there was also a document that Microsoft was trying to end Sony. I mean, okay. So here's the article. Microsoft exec was ready to go spend Sony out of business to strengthen Xbox. Internal emails show that Microsoft early thinking on acquisitions to drive Xbox Game Pass growth, which they still are going to do. Microsoft Xbox Game Studio chief Matt Booty was encouraging Xbox CFO Tim Stewart to spend big money on acquiring game content in 2019 to set the company up to battle Sony in subscriptions. The revelation comes in an email thread that is part of the FTC versus Microsoft's hearing. Quote, "We, Microsoft, are very unique position to be able to go spend Sony out of business," said Booty in December of 2019 email, referencing spending $2 billion or $3 billion in 2020 to avoid competitors getting ahead in content at a later date. Quote, "It's practically impossible for anyone to start a new video streaming service at scale at this point," said Booty. Referencing competitors like Google, Amazon, and Sony, Booty described the content as a moat, and that only Sony could really compete with Xbox Game Pass. In games, Google is 3 to 4 years away from being able to have a studio up and running. Amazon has also shown an ability to execute on game content. Content is one of the most moat that is also we have in terms of the catalog it runs on current devices and capability to create new. Sony is really the only other player who could also compete with Game Pass, and we also have 2 years and 10 million sub lead. Microsoft argues in the email is old and that they never pursued such a strategy anyway. This email is 3.5 years old and predates the announcements of any acquisition by 25 months, says Dave Cuddy, general manager of public affairs at Microsoft, in a statement to The Verge. Quote, "It refers to an industry trends we never pursued, and it's unrelated to the acquisition. The internal exchange was also sealed as part of the separate so-called gamers lawsuit recently." The email is also part of the thread discussing Xbox Game Pass, with the rest of the chain redacted. But it also looks like Microsoft was considering reversing the idea of the day and date release and its own games on Xbox Game Pass in 2019, something Booty wasn't happy about. If we reverse the course of the day and date, it's going to be hard to convince folks that things like Mixer or xCloud have much chance of surviving scrutiny either, he said. That's interesting. So they even wanted to get rid of day and date, which you guys know that I'm against. I hate day and date. I think it's bad for the business. I think they should do what Sony does, where they put the games out and they put them on their platform, and then 6 months, 12 months, 18 months later, they put it on their service of Game Pass. That is a better business model. But because Xbox is trying to get those people over to their system, they put it day and date. Now, I know those of you that love day and date, but it's very bad for the business because they're not going to make all the money. Okay? Smaller studios are not going to make all their money. They get a percentage of money that Microsoft puts on the thing, but day and date, if you could get it on day and date, then why would you go out and buy it? But if you can buy it, and then you're like, oh, I'll just wait, or maybe I'll buy it. They make that initial sales, and then the people down the line will then pick up Game Pass to play it, and then maybe purchase it off there as well. How's this court case has been going on since the other famous court case? Have you kept in mind that the console market is only so big, and either you need to be a top seller or expand to other platforms to increase revenue? Yeah, Tiny, I've talked about that. I said there's a cap, hence why I said that Microsoft is the reason they're getting into mobile and PC, because there's not that many people that total. There's like 250, 300 million people that are playing video games on Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox. So where do you grow? That's saturated. No one else is going out and buying those consoles. They're either on PC or mobile devices, hence why Microsoft is buying Activision. They're okay. As a business, they're okay losing the console war because everything's shifting over to PC and mobile. So this is why they're buying Activision Blizzard, so they can get Blizzard and King. They don't really care about Activision's side. I mean, obviously, it's a bonus. Sony could just create more companies and create better games. Sure, but that's still ways out, and to scale like that would be pretty hard for them. Otherwise, they would have done it already. But they didn't have to because they were the leaders. They still are the leaders. But if they get this, then they have to push, right? They have to start doing other things. I mean, Sony has adapted, right? They have adapted. And they still are adapting. Can you give a simple yes or no, but are you enjoying the best wrestling game since the original SVR? I only played it yesterday. Travis, and I am having fun with it. You'll find out on Thursday, because I'm not going to put much more time into it, and then I'll play it on Thursday and give you like my initial thoughts and stuff. If they get rid of day and date, I unsubscribe to Game Pass. Only reason I still have it, to be honest. Sure, Kylo. But at the same time, that's the reason that that's the reason a lot of these games are not making money. Like, for instance, let's take Outriders. If Outriders didn't go on Game Pass, it would have made its sales, right? They could have come out with a DLC. They could have sold that DLC for the people that were buying those DLCs. And then when it started to slow down, they could have got an influx of money from Microsoft to put it on Game Pass, which then brings people that didn't buy it would go, oh, that's on Game Pass now? And then you would get it on Game Pass. Instead, they put it out a month after they announced the game and said, oh, we're putting it on Game Pass. They lost all those sales, so much so that Square Enix didn't pay them a royalty check for the longest time. Okay? And that's just it. That's the problem. So sure, you wouldn't pay for Game Pass day and date, but there would be games down the road that people would go back for and play. Keep in mind that the modern game developer projects increase the cost of dev time. At some point, the revenue will start to decrease and the costs increase. Sure. It used to take 2 to 3 years to make a video game. Now it takes 3 to 5 years, and some games take 5 to 8 years. But they're also releasing the games where it's supposed to take 3 to 5 years to make the game, maybe 5 years, but they release it at 3. It's in beta for 2 years, and then they release it at the 5-year mark. But they've already made their money on it up front, and they've charged microtransactions and DLCs on top of that. Don't take the name of Outriders in vain. So would you buy it at 60-30 AEW Fight Forever? I haven't played enough to tell you, Water. I'll be honest with you. I haven't played it enough to let you know. Now I'm thinking about buying my own because they are also 100 bones. Switch emulation is also a bitch on deck. Easier just to buy one. This is why Switch is still in the game, in my opinion. I mean, they're in the game, Dabstick, because it's Nintendo. It's because it's Nintendo. I always talk about Nintendo as being the console they give you at birth. Like, you're born, and they hand you one at the hospital. Like, here, this is for you and your family, right? And then you turn it back in when you die, when you're old. Okay? That's Nintendo. Nintendo's age range is from 0 to 99. Or birth to death. So that if people are over 100, then they're in that equation. I mean, yes, but we're not forcing these companies to put their games on Game Pass. They're a third-party company. That's it. That is. Sure, you're not forcing them, right? But in a market, we read an article a couple months ago, Kylo, and I don't know if you were here for it, we were talking about companies that were independent developers. Now, if you're talking about third-party companies like AA games and whatnot, independent AA, not AAA first-party title games, AAA games, if they want to compete, right? If they want to compete and get out to this, you don't make a game so no one plays it. You make a game so as many people can play it as possible. The problem with that is, if you're a small independent company, you're like, well, how can we get the most views on our stuff? You got to use this first game as a springboard, okay, to market yourself for the next thing. For instance, the guy who made Tunic is a small independent developer by himself, right? One man made that game. So the next game the guy comes out with, he might have made money off this, right? Because Microsoft paid him and whatnot, and then he's going to make money on over the time. And that's the Outcast one, because not all independent developers are like that. His next game is going to do good because from the maker of Tunic, you're like, oh man, the guy that made Tunic is fantastic. I can't wait for his next game. It's like an advertisement for his next thing. But a lot of companies don't get that. You're like, oh, that's crap, right? The problem with Game Pass, which is happening right now, is there's a lot of games coming out that are just subpar. They're not blockbuster games. They're not to say there's not blockbuster games, but there's games that come on Game Pass like Redfall, like Outriders, like certain other games. You're like, right? Battlefield didn't come to Game Pass until it was suffering. Now it's on Game Pass. So it gives this bargain bin type of mentality for it. Did Outriders say Game Pass affected that? Yes. Okay. So Magic, this is what happened in November. It was October or November of the year before it came out, which is 2 years ago now. Outriders came out and showed their whole thing, and they're like, pre-order now. And my opinion is that no one was pre-ordering because they didn't know what type of game it was, right? Because they didn't know it was a live service game. They didn't know it was a single-player game. They didn't know what the game was. So nobody pre-ordered. February came around, or end of January came around. They're like, hey, pre-order. Nobody pre-ordered. And then all of a sudden, they announced in February that the game is coming out. I think it was halfway through February, if I'm not mistaken. Like 3 weeks before the game was supposed to launch, that is now coming to Game Pass. And then they had to put a stipulation on it. Please don't cancel your pre-orders, okay? Because people stop pre-ordering the game now and then just got it on Game Pass. Yeah, it affected their sales. It affected their sales so much they didn't get a royalty check from Square Enix. Squamby. Something I love Microsoft would say about EA. Many of the smaller studios match Microsoft so well, like Command & Conquer. Miss my Command & Conquer. No, Square affected Outriders profits for People Can Fly. Square took the Game Pass deal and never paid the devs. Because the pre-orders were down. Because there was no pre-orders. Outriders is a great example, but I wonder how well it would have done if sales it wasn't on Game Pass, and developers said that they drew a lot of players to the game due to the large platform on Game Pass. Sure, but once you get the players, right, and this is what I was saying, Mako, as far as the game is fun. Outriders is fun. This is why they came out with the DLC, so they could sell an additional, what was it, $30, $40? And people were like, $40 is a little steep for the DLC, okay? But the problem is that they basically, next game that Outriders comes out, that People Can Fly come out with, they're like, hey, those guys made Outriders. That was a pretty solid game. Yeah, I played it on Game Pass. Oh, pretty good. Maybe I'll look at it, right? But the mentality of people with Game Pass now, is it on Game Pass? Anytime a game is shown, is it on Game Pass? That's the problem. It's cultivating a society of, oh, I'll just wait for it to come on Game Pass, right? Instead of saying, I'll wait for the game to go on sale, I'll wait for the game to go on Game Pass. According to the People Can Fly, it didn't underperform. We will have to wait and see, but it can see it getting a sequel. Because Square had a contract with People Can Fly on sales, not player numbers. Square got the money. not the devs. Right. They're in Still Gaming lies. Battlefield 2042 came to Game Pass because nobody else would take it. Well, no, they have a deal with EA and whatnot. Does it still sound like a truck with a muffler driving a loose gravel every time you move into Outriders? That's a really good example, Brain. Like a truck with no muffler driving down a loose gravel road. That's right. That's exactly what it sounds like. Right, they took the shady deal, Tiny, and didn't tell people could fly. They're like, no, don't cancel your pre-orders. And Square Enix is like, we got to make money off this bitch. No, it doesn't sound like you're going down a gravel road. It sounds like you're going down a cobble road now. Cobble road. Never played Outriders. Back what I was talking about now, I'm getting ready for work. All right, Jesse. Outriders DLC was not great. I think you're giving more credit to Outriders gameplay. In reality, it was okay game. Yeah, it was just the middle of the road game. More people liked grinding in the beta than they did the actual game when it came out. Other news you can touch on later, but if the patch today does not make Nightmare Dungeons changes, I expect the very, very soon tweet to get backlash. Yeah, but didn't they say, Fate, that 4 has to go through the process between PlayStation and Xbox to make those types of changes for the game? That's something they can't do on the back end? Or am I getting that confused? I bought the game because I felt bad for People Can Fly because they got a raw deal from Square. Fun, so I can just justify the purchase. But it wasn't even a full price game, wasn't it? I forget. Wasn't it a $40 game? I don't even think it was a full $60 game, was it? You're describing a Game Pass problem. You're describing a contract negotiation problem. No, I'm describing a Game Pass problem and a negotiation problem. Square Enix screwed them, okay, by making the deal of Game Pass, and Game Pass, they didn't make enough money off of it. There's multiple articles that we've read on this, Farmer, that companies that go onto Game Pass don't make enough money on Game Pass. Then there's others that make a lot of money on Game Pass. And the situation was that it's going to get so clustered, and this is from insiders of the actual industry, from the independent developers and also like AA, we read on our podcast that they feel that the oversaturation, once there's too many games on Game Pass, it's going to be really hard to push your game. Hence why Microsoft has more and more first-party title games coming out, and once their first-party title games come out, okay, it'll be harder for the lower-tier AA games or independent games to get traction in Game Pass. This is not me saying that. This is literally the insiders of the gaming sphere talking about how Game Pass is bad for the industry. Good for you, right? It's good for you and me because it's a small fee with a ton of stuff to do. Bad for majority of the industry, not the few that win the lottery by pushing their games onto Game Pass and make it. The guy who created the company that published Tunic said Tunic was very successful, but the games after that are not going to make as much money, okay? Right? Not as much money as the other ones because they get lost in the mix. But Game Pass bears no fault here? Okay. Was it $59.99 at launch? I sworn it was on sale. I sworn it was on sale. It was full price. I paid $70 for it on PlayStation 5. Am I thinking of the DLC? Was the DLC $40? I'm pretty sure Maybe it was on sale for a week or so. I don't know. No, it was 59. It was $59.99. Microsoft for both previous next-gen consoles. Outriders will be supported for next-gen upgrade for both PlayStation, Xbox, and no additional cost. Where did I see it for? Here it is. Was it $40? Was it $40 on PC? The current price is $40 on Steam. Game Pass Ultimate, $14. Days Best Outriders, Wastelayer. DLC release time and date. Outriders first time price will be $50. Oh, wait a minute. They charged $59, $60 for the World Slayer as well? Did they really? Where did I remember? I remember $40 from somewhere. DLC was $40, yes. I could have sworn when it first came out, Tiny. I remember, because I remember having a conversation. I was like, well, it's only a $40 game. But then I think they raised the price. I don't know. I mean, Dave said he bought it for $60, so. I didn't buy it. You know why? It's on Game Pass. It's up to the devs to make a good game and figure out how to leverage Game Pass for profit. Sure. But when you go to Game Pass, hell, when you go to Netflix or any other streaming service, when you're looking for something and you don't know what you're looking for, you're just kind of scrolling and looking through a wall of just pictures. That's not the greatest way to make your game seen or get popular. I wonder very, very soon was not talking about the whole suite, just answering the question of the next patch. And people have just took their own interpretation. Oh, I was just saying, I remember them people complaining, and then someone asked in the tweet that when is the update coming out for the, and then the community manager came out and said that it's an internal thing that has to get through with Xbox and PlayStation before it can get updated, I believe. But I don't know if he was talking about what you're saying, Fate, or if it was something else that was happening in D4. You could be right. The price people can fly didn't pull the red fall, so they gave them more props for business integrity. I mean, I thought Outriders overall as a game, regardless of the sound design and whatnot, I thought for what it was, I thought it was a good game. I thought it was a good game. It wasn't a AAA game. I gave them bonus points because it's not a live service game. The game you played and the game you put down. Oh, the multiverse is stuff, Jesse, is I'm shocked by this, and I think a lot more people should be upset about this because they came out and it was in a beta, and in the beta they were charging for founders packs and whatnot to get people to purchase stuff inside Multiverse. Right? Multiverses. So Multiverses has officially shut down until early 2024, and the players have taken to social media to share their mixed feelings over the hiatus. While the game was previously by many to be full release already due to the Battle Pass and other microtransactions, DLC characters, and so on, Warner Brothers Games announced in March it would close down as of June 25th. Now the date has been gone, and players have shared their conflict feelings online, with most of appearing slightly sad that they can't play their favorite game for the best part of a year. Now, excuse me. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the open beta is officially over, said official Officer Jack on Reddit. I'll be looking forward to the full release of Multiverse next year. Other hopeful players filed the replies. It was also a pleasure to play the game and very much look forward to seeing what the game has become next year, said Nate 923. Hopefully, fully launches and pack of full new content, and the community becomes comprised of actual players engaging online rather than vice versa. Many lapsed players said that the jump back into Multiversus final few games before the shutdown, while others enjoyed the regular daily games that last time before the time ran out. It wasn't all warm feelings, however, though. Some players continued to express the frustration at Multiversus going dark. After spending real money on it, locking people out of the money, and then spend on the game until next year is something no company has successfully done for quite obvious reasons, said a Twitter user. No new release date for Multiversus has been shared, so meaning fans will just need to wait for further announcement. Like, can we understand that this is the scum of scumminess? Okay? The scum of scumminess for putting a game out, charging the Founders Pack, right? Charging DLC, charging battle passes. Like, this game is out, right? Fortnite did this. Fortnite did this, but the difference between Fortnite and what they're doing is they never shut down Fortnite. It was in beta for the longest time, and then they released, but you can still play the game. There's people that actually paid to play this game with the Founders Pack to unlock certain characters, to unlock certain things, to get skins, and now they can't play the game at all until another day down the line. This game didn't even release, and now, wouldn't it be funny if the game doesn't come back? And like, oh, sorry, made some changes, and we're not coming back with this game. That would be some shit, huh? That would be some shit. So Lono is yelling and screaming about the acquisition. I came over here because it's more chill. Yeah, I have no side in the case, Crowded House. Like, we're reading the news and just having a conversation. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I like this game. I played it until they announced that the game was shutting down. I went, nope, I'm done. I liked it. I thought it was a good fighting game, and I haven't played fighting games in years, and I thought it was a fun game. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and personally, but had fun grinding online with friends. I got my money's worth. But the problem, bros, can we both admit that this is just shady, right? Regardless if you paid or not, this is just shady. This is getting worse. Like, if it's one thing if you come out and you come out with a beta, early access, and you don't charge for stuff. Like, they could have tested out stuff. Put characters in that they were working on, and said, look, at the end of this, all of these characters are open for everyone to test, but when the game comes out, they're going to be locked behind certain things, and then the game's going to cost money, or there's going to be a battle pass. But they literally just shut it down, and now we don't know when it's opening back up. It's terrible. So scummy. It's got to be a Blizzard move. Interesting. Hopefully they can find a way to make it better connections to the servers and play with the game as connections in the servers while playing it online. I didn't spend a goddamn cent on this game. I'm upset for people that did spend because of what standards this puts in the industry, right? What standards it puts in the industry. Oh, your last comment was about Outriders of getting your money's worth. I got you. I bought the Tom and Jerry character for my son. And now your son can't play it. Do you see how scummy this is? And then, like, a year from now, do you think your son will be interested a year from now? Like, I'm sorry. This is like a wind just going by, a fart in the wind, and people are going to look at this and go, that's no big deal. This is a huge deal. This is a testing ground, right? This shows other companies that you could put a incomplete, play-tested, alpha, beta, early access game out there, charge full price, shut down anytime you want, and everyone will be like, that's all right. They're coming back. Like, what? For people, this would have been a smart move. This would have been 4D chess move. If you were a person that paid for the Founders Pack or bought a Battle Pass or anything like that, you should still be able to play the game right now. If you spent money on this game, you should be able to play the game right now. You should also be a part of the whole community process of what's right or what's wrong, and they keep updating it and keep doing the stuff. Why would they need to shut it down? Right? Why would they need to shut it down? You know what this game did? It showed us that Nintendo can't be touched. This was just a shitty Smash from day one. Regardless if it was a shitty Smash from day one, it was a fun game. It was a fun game. Don't worry, Bungie is helping Sony how to be many levels deep in the shady on microtransaction practices for games. Don't even get me started on that with Bungie and microtransactions. I'm not touching it. I'm not taking the bait. Nope. Kids have an attention span of a dog with the squirrel, right, Rose? Mike, how are you? Feeling good? Final Fantasy 16. I'm hearing that the game is literally 50% cutscenes. I handled that myself. I heard that it's a fantastic game. It is like a movie, but it's like super easy. Now, I'm not judging. This is just what I heard. Like, there's a difficulty slider, but apparently you can literally hit one button and go through the whole game, which is so strange to me. Yeah, he won't care in a year. Yeah, it's just shady as hell that companies do this. And then there's just a little blog like this on IGN. They're just like, oh well, open beta is now closed. People spent tens of hundreds of dollars on this beta game, and now there's no sign of early 2024. When? Early 2024. So basically a year from now. Because early is up until end of June. Can't handle. I heard it was super easy and all cutscenes. According to Square, it was done so people with disabilities of only one hand could play it for Final Fantasy 16. Is that true? Is that what they said? Right, until 2024, and then it gets pushed to 2025. It's mind-boggling to me. You know what would be a really crappy move about this game, Multiversus? They come back out, and the people that bought the pass have to buy it again. The Founders Pack, they have to buy it again. That would be... And if you buy that, you're just the problem. You're the problem. Yeah, he said it in the interview. It's interesting that Destiny's prices went up after they bought by Sony. Just saying. Yes, the one button configuration is accessible option. So I wonder, this is going to go into a different topic conversation though, right? So if you have the option, right, there's a hard, let's say there's an insane, a hard, a medium, and super easy. And people that played on insane, so take away the other ones. You only could play the game at insane. Play the game, right? People like the game. They play the game like a Dark Souls game, and that's what it is. But then you put a insane and then hard mode. How many people that play insane are going to drop it to hard because it's too much of it's too insane for them, right? And I think the crux of my conversation here is that if you give options, the people that want to play hard will be tired of playing hard, and they'll lower it just so they can beat the game. They won't push themselves. So if there's no difficulty slider, then obviously they'll push through. But because there's a slider, people will be like, I'm just going to drop it. I'm just going to drop it. Right? Because I understand with the Final Fantasy 16 that you can go through and just push. That's not the regular game though, correct? Like you could put it up the difficulty level and play, or is it still super easy? I don't know. I didn't watch anybody. I just saw the clip of one guy playing. He was just smashing the button while eating a sandwich. You bought the old pass, not the new one. No, they announced this a way ahead of time, Jesse. So I don't know if it has anything to do with the Flash movie. Like when you bought shit, they could have been like, oh wait, we're shutting it down, right? But that's just it. They didn't say that. They didn't. The day Marvel's Avengers announced they were closing down, they put a skin in the store for $75, and the day after they said, "Oh, all the skins are going to be free." Like, think about how these companies work, Magic. You either know or you don't, and they take advantage of you. Mike, I'm still waiting for the Elden Ring no-hit run. Well, you're going to wait a long time. Okay, so Final Fantasy 16. Okay. Fate's typing something. They didn't say that because they didn't have their own up to it. Wait, didn't say that because if they did, they have to own up to it. Oh, I got you. Yeah. Well, I didn't spend stuff in Marvel's Avengers, right? But it was just funny to me that they put it out that week, a $75 skin, like pack, bundle, whatever. And then the next like day or two after they posted that, the same week when they posted that, they're like, yeah, we're shutting down and all the skins are free. But they didn't shut down the store. They kept the store at prices up until I think the end of March. Okay, which is like 6 weeks after the announcement. And then they gave it to everybody. And I was just like, are you seriously saying it's going to be free, but you're charging for the skin still? Like, put a warning up. Let people know. It was such a shady freaking move by Square Enix. Oh, it wasn't Square. Yeah, it was Square Enix, right? No, it was Crystal Dynamics. Yeah, it was Crystal Dynamics with Square Enix. Yeah. Do you still buy Avengers? I don't think so. I think they knocked it down. I don't think you can. You can? No, Travis, you cannot still buy Avengers on the store. It should be delisted. Or not delisted. You can still buy the game, but you can't it closes down. Yeah, the game is $6 on Steam. You can still buy it, but the servers will close down in like a year or so. Yeah, it's on sale until September when they close down. Right. It closes down, and then you can't buy it anymore. But if you have it, you have it because there's an offline mode. Thank God for that. 3 difficulties. Story. Less damage taken, more damage, less health on mobs. Action equals baseline damage taken and health, less damage dealt. And New Game Plus equals more damage taken and extra health, less damage dealt. Got it. I use currency from Heroes Pass to buy skins. Yeah, I never spent any money. I just used what I got to get the next hero. Well, you get the oh, is that how it's gonna work? You just get the campaign once the server shut down. You should still get the map. You just won't be able to play online with anybody, right? I want them to make an X-Men live service game. Why does it have to be a live service game? Yeah, Starship Troopers had an update for mutations. It was the campaign only. Wait a minute, Travis. If that's it, then you can't even play half the characters. Wait a minute. If it's just the campaign, you can't play half the characters. Because you have to play the certain characters during the campaign. Meaning anybody that they've added on after the fact that you can't play. Is that true? That can't be. So I can't use Kate unless I play the Kate DLC. I can't use Hawkeye unless I use the Hawkeye DLC. I can't play Black Panther unless I use the Black Panther DLC. Is that true? So how do I play Winter Soldier or Mighty Thor? How do I play those characters? They don't have DLC story. You don't. After September 30th, Marvel Avengers will no longer be available to purchase digitally. The game will continue to be playable for anyone with the existing physical or digital copy of the game after the date. However, after September 30th, we can't guarantee that we'll be able to address issues that occur for the unforeseeable circumstances. What will happen to the Hero Challenge cards when they update 2.8 on 31st? I earn all custom cosmetics from the Hero Challenge cards automatically be granted to all players. Okay, will Omega level threats and Discord sound raids still be available on March 31st? Yes, you can continue to operate as they do now. Will all Operation War for Wakanda expansions be available offline, or will they be require internet connection? Yes, you'll be able to experience all operations and War of Wakanda expansions without internet connections after March 31st, 2023. Will outfits require? No. Will there be double or triple XP? That doesn't really matter. How will the update 2.8 impact recurring mission chains, events, and rewards? All occurring missions and objectives will continue to refresh at a cadence they always have. Where does it say update? Will Marvel's continue to be available on Game Pass, PlayStation Plus? Marvel's Avengers available on both. Discuss the blog. Will apply the Game Pass on PlayStation Plus extra versions of the game. Well, for any updates, stay tuned for Xbox. Okay. Shipment. Will Spider-Man remain playable? Yes, it will remain exclusive on PlayStation. This announcement does not alter any standard refund policies. What happens to my currency credit balance if anything happened to the cosmic vendor? Outfits. Support will, after September 30th, will no longer be added new content. Provide customer support for the game. In addition to Marvel's Avengers, will no longer be available for purchase. After September 30th, 2023, will no longer provide support. It doesn't say, so the whole game is still playable. Will any stories, features, and heroes be added? No. Will there be additional bug fixes? No. Will the events in the Red Room Takeover run after? Yes, they will run in rotation after 2 weeks. Why are they giving the marketplace content away for free? Digital version. Buy the game up until September. What happens to the update goes live? No, you could 100%. The game will continue to run until March 31st. At the time of update 2.8, the launch would then game's final balance changes in the marketplace. Challenge card, shipment, cosmetic, available to all players. Will single player and multiplayer play be available forever? The changes we are making to how the game functions will assure as long as life as possible. However, after September 30th, we can't guarantee that we'll be able to address any issues occurring due to unforeseen circumstances. So not only is it still playable, okay, it's playable and it's also online. I was gonna say, if they made it just the campaign, that would be absolute garbage. You wouldn't be able to touch half the characters. Like, you could only play Kamala for the campaign, and then every once in a while, one of the other characters, like Captain America or Hulk, for that section. I mean, The Last of Us doesn't spend $40 a piece for Witch Queen and Beyond Light. Use stasis and strat subclasses in Destiny. They're quite strong. They decoupled from servers in March. But you can still play with people, correct, Fate? You can still play multiplayer with people, or you're only by yourself now? And if you're by yourself, right? And if you're by yourself, can I get my heroes to play with me again? Or is that cut off and you're only play solo through certain things? Suicide Squad was going to be the same garbage before the fans lashed out. So it's good fans that keep it happening. We'll see what happens with Suicide Squad. I was excited for it, but then, it is what it is. I just realized something. Wonder if they were stop sunsetting content. They want people to have to pay for subclasses. I'm not going back to that game. Ever. If they come out with Destiny 3, I still won't buy it. Because Destiny 3 will be just like Destiny 2, but even worse. As far as cosmetics and microtransactions and whatnot. Will achievement changes? I think everything stays the same. It doesn't say anything about achievements on this list. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about achievements on this list. But I would assume it still stays the same, Titan. Friends list multiplayer. Right. So anybody that has the game of friends list can still play, but there's no matchmaking to find people. Bungie, we rebranded Destiny to Marathon. Do me a favor, name the live service game that hasn't been pure scum, if you can even. I mean, Division 2 hasn't been scum. Division 2 hasn't been scum. And what's the word scum? Like, what are you looking for that word scum? What's scum? The pricing model and sheer cost of Destiny 2 has completely surpassed its value. I saw the writing on the wall years and years ago, Farmer. Years and years ago. I called it like I saw it. And I was 100% correct. I laughed my ass off when people were defending that the reason the Eververse store was there was to fund the content. I laughed my ass off. Because literally, they sold so many copies, okay, of Destiny 1 that Destiny 1's profit could fund Destiny 2, Destiny 3, the entire lifetime, right? The entire lifetime of the game without charging 1 cent of a microtransaction for the content that you had to get from the microtransaction store. I laughed my fucking ass off. Fair enough. And by scummy, I mean anything like selling you a skin for money higher than $1.99 costumes and materials should be free, in my opinion. Well, I agree to a point. And the statement I'm about to say is that you won't know what was supposed to be in the game and what was supposed to be out of the game. This goes into a whole different conversation. So, for instance, let's do the conversation we had yesterday on Discord a little bit about the AEW game, right? Dupless was upset because, and I'm not calling Dupless out, I'm just saying his name. There's nothing wrong with what he said. He was upset because the AEW game was trying to be old school. And I think he was taking the word old school as that they were going to put all the characters in the game like they did old school and charge one price. And in that game, and I used WCW versus NWO, the N64 version, and that had 70 heroes on there, or 70 wrestlers on there. The AEW game has 60 characters, right? So if I'm comparing it to the other one, it's still good for the price it is. It's a $60 game, and they're giving me 60 characters, and then they're giving me a battle pass or a season pass, and they're charging whatever, $20 for that, right? Is that scummy? Sure. Now, were those characters going to be in the main game? We don't know behind the scenes of contractual stuff and stuff like that because those characters are technically just skins, right? But then the skins that were actually in those games. So now let's go back to a game like Marvel's Avengers. If Marvel's Avengers had all those characters in the game day one, charged what they had, and then they ripped them out to then charge you afterwards, is that scummy? Is it worth the time of the campaign, the characters, and the cosmetics? Are the cosmetics in the game? Were they in the game at launch, or did they make those and they make them shittier looking to entice you to buy stuff on the microtransaction store. I think at a point, yes, that is scummy because they don't put it in the game, right? They make the better costumes outside the game so you spend cosmetics. Games that do it right, Spider-Man. Spider-Man puts all the cosmetics in the game. It's Spider-Man. Spider-Man looks like Spider-Man, but different Spider-Man, okay? Like, you can swing around the city and you can earn all the cosmetics in the game. They didn't sell you a different cosmetic in any way, shape, or form, except for the pre-order for Spider-Man 2. But all those cosmetics are in the game. They didn't make them shittier looking, so you go to the store and buy the better looking one. So you can make an argument, are they intentionally making cosmetics in the game just subpar so you buy the ones like Diablo is doing right now in their store, right? Is that better looking than the ones that you can earn inside the game, right? If they weren't going to be in the game in the first place, they weren't going to go make those other ones. They just made the ones in the game as they are. Then you can't say they're scummy. But if they make them shitty looking on purpose to make the better ones so they're enticing you to get them in the cosmetic store, that is scummy in my opinion. That is scummy in my opinion. EA launched Star Wars Battlefront 2 with pay-to-win loot boxes. Not at launch. You got to retract that, Jesse. It was before launch. And when the game actually launched, those mechanics weren't in the game. It got changed before. I wonder how much a player has paid for D2 who has been there since day one, not even counting the microtransactions, all seasons and DLC. Got to be a ton, right? I would say if you bought every single one from Destiny 1 to now, it's $60 for the main game. It was $20. Well, actually, it was $15 per expansion, right? So you had Dark Below, House of Wolves, and if you bought them right out the bat, that's $30. So it's $90 there. Then you had Taken King, which was another $40. Is that what it was? It was like $40 for Taken King. Then you had Osiris, and you had something else, and then that was the end. And Rise of Iron, and then that was it. So you had 6 expansions, and the DLC. So you're already over $250. I would say you're probably around $500, $600 maybe for Destiny. To me, it's simple as the base game is free. It's added afterwards, and you can have charge for DLC. Characters require coding. Coding is done and deserves compensation. It's scummy to have content that you can only get via microtransactions. If you can get it easier by paying, or you can grind in the in-game, I'm okay. Cosmetics I don't care so much if it's purely cosmetic. But that's the frog boiling in the pot, right? Chapter 8, right? Like we all get comfy with it. We're like, it's all right. It's just cosmetic. I feel if I want to earn it in the game, I kind of like the way Marvel's Avengers did the character pass that they did, right? Where it was like, was it 40 levels? I think it was 40 levels. Was it 40 levels? I forget if it was 40 levels. I think it was 40 levels. And you would level up and there'd be cosmetics in there, right? For the price. And they gave that for free, right? They were going to charge for it, but they gave it for free. And if you finished it, you made 1,000, and then you could put that towards the next character that came out. I'm okay with that. If you wanted to buy that, you could, right? You still had to purchase it and then level it up. You couldn't buy, I don't remember. But if I can earn it, I'm okay with that. I don't think that's scummy. If your time is worth $20 and you want to buy it, but I want to earn it, I find that fine. That is coming out tomorrow. I can't wait. And yeah, there's also the version that you get the season pass, and they're going to add new ones in. For which game is that, Rose? Which game you guys? I missed what you guys are talking about. Crowd says the lights are going to be on at Bungie until the sun explodes. Only $71 for the Elite Edition. I think that sounds a good price for my opinion. What game is that? What game are you talking about? Oh, AEW. Gotcha. Yeah. I'm playing it on Thursday. I got a code from the developers. So Thursday night, me and Sarge are going to play it. So if you didn't already buy it and you want to take a look at the game, you can ask me questions. We can look at stuff on Thursday night. What's coming out tomorrow? You talk about AEW. I spend $100 a year on Destiny. I have anything but so probably 1,000. Yeah, it's like 9 years. $1,000, you think? Is that with microtransactions or just the content? They gave it to you for free, but gave you enough to currency to unlock the next one, right? For Marvel's Avengers. That was supposed to be so much more. Was 100% open for expansions to that character battle pass. I don't know why they didn't do that. They completely botched that whole IP. I already made him. I already made him, Travis. I already made Jack Burton. I already had a match with him. Already made Jack Burton. I can't show you. I'll tell you this. I'm a little disappointed in the customization, the character creator. I'm a little disappointed. 2023 character customization in that game. I get that they're new. You know, they're not new, but the character customization is not anywhere near what it used to be. They needed more help. I need to copyright Jack. I can't. Jack Burton's already copyrighted by, was it MGM? Oh, Lumberjack. Maybe that's the nickname I should give him. I couldn't find a good nickname for him. That's what I should put. I'm gonna go change that. There's a bunch of stuff you can do in the game. There are cool things that you can do in the game. I will say that, but the customization's a little lackluster. I want to make Snake Plissken. I don't know if you can. I'm trying to think of what some of the accessories you can do. I was a little thrown off. Okay, so in the game, they have a currency, and I was like, uh oh. And then I played it, and they gave me the currency. I was like, oh, okay, because you can unlock things with the in-game currency. Dropped it in the in what general chat. Still waiting to reply from him. I don't know if it was him on YouTube that deleted it. He tried to send everything he had last night, but the video file was too big for Discord. Got this though. What is that? What am I looking at? During the Discord, woke up. Am I supposed to? That's supposed to see. Am I supposed to see something there? Like what am I looking at? What am I looking at? All right, Fate. It's a pic of a thumbnail on the video, I think. No, but I have the pic, but what am I looking at? Like here, I'll bring it up. What am I looking at here? Like, what is this? It's just a tree. What is this? And am I looking at this thing here? I'm looking at this thing over here. Like, what am I looking at? Is this what you guys are talking about? This little black dot that you can barely see? Because that could literally be a speck of whatever on the glass. the dot, I think. Just I'm not even gonna talk about that anymore. And I believe in stuff like that. But that picture is like so like, what is that? Right? Like you can take a picture of an ant on the window, and I take a picture of him and be like, oh my God, we're being invaded by a giant ant. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I always find? Do you guys ever find this? And this is a good segue here for a second. You guys always find it strange that we have the most crystal clear 4K, 8K video footage on cell phones that anyone can imagine, right? You can zoom in and see like the tiniest dot on the thing. But when something strange happens and someone pulls out a cell phone, it's almost the most like unavailable, pixelated, dark area that you can never see. You can never see shit that they post in the pictures. You're like, what are you doing? Are you like on a 480p cell phone? Are you taking like your Verizon flip phone taking a picture? Like it's so strange. I'm not saying you, Dabs. I'm talking about just in general when you see stuff online. It's like, I don't understand. Like, you can see this thing, and then when you take a video, they're like, and it looks like something like 1984. You're like, why is it so pixelated? And I always love that, like, when you watch shows, they're like, zoom in, enhance. Yeah, give me that program. Where's that on my regular laptop computer? Enhance. It flies, it changes colors, man. I saw the video on screen share. That's cool. I'm not saying you're crazy. I'm just having a conversation about when people usually show stuff, you can't ever see anything. Hey, leave the boomer phone alone. I don't find it strange at all. I find it to be exactly what I expect of people are fabricating evidence and do interested in making it easy to debunk their evidence. Yeah, it's just funny to me. It's like if I take a picture, like right now, right? Imagine if an alien walked into this room, like you could see me clearly, but then an alien walked into this room, or maybe you saw a reflection in the television set or something, right? Like, is that an alien in the back of his room? And then they like enhance, or like it's like this blurry mess, and you're like, the hell is that? It's like 1954 ant movie, them. Yeah, check it out. That's how they did it. Special effects. They held an ant really close to the lens, had a micro lens. It's because they made you enhance it. Shows the fairness or the fakeness. I did see an interview with Todd Howard the other day where the topic came up, and he said that he saw a UFO and called his family and the neighbors outside to see it, and they stood there with their mouths open staring. Is that what they said? I mean, you know that there's that island, I forget what the island's called, where they've never ever have come in contact with modern people. They're like an African tribe out in the middle of this. I don't know if they're African, but there's this tribe out in the middle of nowhere, right? And they're like cannibals, and they don't know. People have taken pictures of them, but you can imagine that if they see an airplane flying over the village, they don't have any radios or anything like that. They would look at that as some spacecraft from an outer space. You know what I mean? No one pulled out their phone. They were just surprised. And the next morning they found out it was a SpaceX launch. That's great. That's great. Todd Howard didn't see a UFO. He saw a plane. He was also he saw a UFO. Yeah, it's just funny. It's funny. Like, it's like that Bigfoot footage, like way back when. It's just a blurry mess. And now here we are, like 30, 40 years later, and people that still take videos of stuff, it's still a blurry mess. Old school world versus modern world. Who will win? It's just funny to me. Right, it was a UFO to him. He didn't know it was what it was. It's just there, and an explanation didn't have it at the time. He's like 99% of UFOs. Yeah. I mean, look, do I believe that there's something other out there? Sure. Do we have technology that we've done that it's not out to the public to see yet? So when we see them flying or doing something, we see the technology and we think it's a alien craft. Are there alien crafts? Sure. Right? Sure. I can't imagine being in a planet with millions and millions of other stars in the sky that we're the only people out there. I can't imagine that. Right? We're giving Todd Howard shit for Starfield for having 1,000 planets, only 10% have life on it. Meanwhile, we live in an actual world with an actual galaxy, an actual universe. And we're like, we're the only ones out here? Come on. Sure. It's just like ghosts, right? I've had experiences with natural beings, right? Multiple times. Okay. I don't need someone to believe me. Right? I don't need someone to believe me. I know they're true, but I don't need to try to make other people believe it's true. Aliens exist, but none have ever come here. Do you know that is a fact, though, Travis? They've never, ever came here. Nobody, ever. It's impossible. You know what's impossible? Trying to find that gear set in Diablo 4. That's impossible. Can I get an invite to the Discord? You can just go to our Discord. Just go to the Discord. It's in the description down below. And then you can link up your YouTube account. I mean, I assume that we are only an intelligent life on this planet. Kind of naive. The whole galaxy. I mean, have you seen a squid? We talked about this the other day. A squid or an octopus? That shit's alien-like. That is alien-like. Like the way they move. Like octopus and squid, the way like that's alien-like. Yeah, I don't think the command works. It's just in the description down below. The bots don't work. The bots don't work, brain. Mathematically, there is other life, whether there's intelligent or not, that's tech close enough to visit. Possible, but not enough evidence to take beyond. Of course. But you can't say without a shadow of a doubt, right? And especially coming from us as a human race and things that we believe, right? Bots are striking for better pay. I got rid of the bots. I didn't want the takeover. Oh, right, Quintar? If you went back in time and showed, like, I mean, even remember in Back to the Future, he puts the hazmat suit on and he has the headphones. He puts it on his father's head and hits the recorder. He's like, "What is magic?" You know, like he's like blown away by a Sony tape deck. Wait, is this real? Hold on a second. Let me see. Look, this is a octopus opening a jar from the inside. Because he's got suction cups. He's turning his whole body. Look at this. If that's not alien-like, I don't know what is, man. I think they're the most mystical creatures on our planet. They're just amazing. They do some weird crap, man. They can camouflage themselves. A fish within the container. The container is a screwed top. There's a small opening on the top for the container he can fit through, and the hole to taste the food, and you cannot pull the food through the container. The only way to get in is to untwist it, and he figures it out. Like, look at this. You don't need a man to open a jar anymore. You just need an octopus. You need an octopus to open up a jar. These things are amazing, dude. He sees the fish inside the bottle. Right? He's like, all right, how do we get into this thing? Is he not going for it? He's taking a step back to analyze the situation. It's something common we see in almost every experiment. They usually take about 5 minutes or so before making a second attempt. Okay, he's going back for it. They reset it. They put it back up. What's he doing? Go through? How is his... Oh, that's the fish. I was like, how is he in the... The octopus has gotten a hold of the fish with his arms. Wait a minute. How did he get his arm in there? The octopus has gotten his hold of the fish, and with his arm, he's able to taste the fish. And there's no letting go now. How did he get his hand or tentacle? Where is the hole? Is he put it through? Did he put it through the top? I'm so confused. He's got his... Oh, there was a little hole. That's what he said. There's a little hole inside the thing. So he's going to have to unscrew it, right? Yeah, it's a baby bottle. But how did it looks like they drilled a hole in the side to get his tentacle in. It's a small hole in the side. So he's either going to try to squeeze through, or he's going to try to yank that fish through the hole, or he's going to open the bottle. Either way, this thing is intelligent, man. They can open jars, take that, feminist. As expected, the octopus is attempting to pull the fish through the small opening. He's unable to do so, so the size of the fish being much larger than the hole. As the octopus tries to figure out how to open the bottle, he then is going to try to open the bottle. Yeah, I think it's just going to straight open the bottle, right? Oh, no. Look at that. He took the top off. The experiment has taken an unexpected twist. Instead of unscrewing the top, the octopus has applied the tremendous amount of force that has ripped off the top of the pacifier, part of the bottle. We were unable to get him to unscrew the top of this experiment. However, this is quite interesting to watch him for another way to find the bottle. He literally said, fuck your bottle, ripped out the top of the pacifier, which, mind you, is extremely hard on those things. Look at him. He's like, yeah, I did it. They're crazy, man. They're so crazy looking. And this is why I'm like, that's 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago. Well, what is this? If this happened to me, I would freak the F out. If this happened to me, I would freak out. Like, no, thank you. He's coming on the board, buddy. He's taking your board with you. This guy is the most unlucky guy. Octopus is like, I'm surfing, bro. He's surfing underneath. He's surfing underneath. I can watch octopus videos all day. I can watch octopus videos all day. They are the most crazy looking things. They can squeeze through like the tiniest spaces. They can adapt and change color. They're super strong. They're like, it's amazing. They're amazing. Here you go. This guy's squeezing through a 1-inch opening. Look how big he is. A 1-inch opening. Oh no. We do this. We're almost done anyway. We go off the deep end all the time. This is how my show works. We change subjects. That's crazy. You know, Tiny, sometimes you have to get away from the mundane things in life. You know, talking about FTC, Microsoft, and Sony is entertaining for a little bit, but finding crap out like this is very educational. I do not like squid. Have you ever eaten? You ever eaten squid? My father-in-law gave me. We went to a restaurant one day, and he had the baby octopus or baby squid, or whatever it was. And I don't know if you've ever eaten it, but the tentacles get stuck to your like tongue and stuff like that. And then like if you bite the head, like you guys ever have that boba tea? You like pop it. How it is. A little chewy. We train our astronauts underwater for space. There's spots in space that are solid H2O. Definitely a giant squid out there somewhere. Maybe. Wouldn't that be crazy? All of a sudden, everyone's like, there's an asteroid coming, but there's just this giant squid that just grabs the planet, and you're like, we're done. We're done. What are you going to do? Try it on a cruise. Good eating. Yeah, it's good. What is more scarier, seeing a giant squid or seeing an alien in your backyard? I'd rather pick seeing a giant squid. What's scarier? How big's the squid? How big's the squid? Are we talking like 10 feet? Are we talking like 30 feet? We're talking like 100 foot? During the same Todd interview, he said the same. Our stuff has been classically single-player line. If you're interested, YouTube, the Lex Friedman. Yeah, but the context that we did the other day in the conversation with Reforge, the question was asked about the mods. The answer that he gave is the weird part. Not that it's classically single player and stuff. Honestly, the first time someone said I hate Microsoft, I thought they meant people with Microsoft or MS. Oh, MS. I thought it was with MS, not the weird conversation. The context is in this one is talking about the player community and modding community. Where's the link? Do you have the link? Is it just underneath the Lex Friedman interview? Is that what I'm looking up? Is it the one from 6 months ago? You said time frame 153:53.
Ways to go there in terms of finding the right drop rate for special items, we call them, your epic, rare, legendary.
53.
You look at games, like so many games do it, and there are ones that you just play and love because they have it down. Destiny 2 is great at it. Diablo, a series I love, sort of famously, Diablo 3, which I think is great. And they did an update. It mostly just changed the loot drops. And it's like this whole new experience. And there's a really real art to it. I think that we're still learning. We're still learning a lot and have to, we're trying to, get better at it because it's one of those things where it drives you through the game. It's fun to get the treasure. And
Diablo and Skyrim have this interesting quality of being extremely popular. And there's a lore around like rare items. So it changes the dynamic of like you could afford to have really rare items.
Yes.
Western items.
And then somebody finds it and it becomes like a thing. I mean, as you release a game, there's a lot of people play it and they start sharing stories and so on. It's so interesting because that's part of the game experience is the stories of others. I don't see anything here with
talking about
for
mods.
Us, 100%. Because we've been classically, with most of our stuff, single player, that water cooler share
game experience is the stories of others, right?
For us, 100%. Because we've been classically, with most of our stuff, single player, that water cooler shared experience, we would have a thing like we call them did you know moments. Like we got to have a bunch. So you meet someone, they do, what are you doing? And then they say, did you know? If you go here and do this, what did you know? And that to us is where of a lot of our community.
Is that what you're talking about? Where it says, single player? I don't think that's the same context.
Community has been sharing their stories, and here's what you can do.
Has there ever been a temptation to create not a single player game that's gigantic? That's
we did Fallout 76. We have Elder Scrolls Online, not a game I created, but and look, that started as a more classic MMO. Know the folks, they're part of our company who made that game, and it's insanely popular.
It is. Okay, so I should try it out.
They do some great storytelling quests, like the actual mechanics aren't the same as Skyrim, but the world is awesome. They've just done an incredible job.
Is that the part though?
It's about to be 10 years for that game as well. And this is, great community around that.
Yeah, that's I haven't played because there's a mobile Fallout game, right? I need to play that. I was thinking of playing Diablo mobile too.
I mean, you can debate the monetization, but I would not. I think they did a phenomenal. It's really fun.
On Fallout, what's
Diablo?
Oh, Diablo.
Yeah, well, Fallout. I definitely recommend that one. Fallout Shelter, completely different game.
Yeah.
Diablo Immortal is. I was very, very impressed with that. I had a lot of fun
on the mobile.
Yep.
What's the challenge of designing a game for mobile versus the PC and console?
Well, obviously the screen size, right?
Is that what you feel first? What's the fundamental change in the philosophy of design? Does it constrain? Does it change the tone of the game?
Well, we've done a few things, and we have a new mobile game that we're working on that we haven't announced yet that I'm in love with. There are a couple things that you approach on mobile. Now,
I mean, he's a person that just interviews people.
I can give you sort of the classic mobile gaming thing and then what we do. Mm-hmm. A classic mobile gaming is really for short play sessions. Because for the amount of people you're going to get, the number that I have.
Yeah, but that's a completely different context, though. Because he's talking about the community, right? The question in the other interview was about the modding community. And his answer to the modding community is just weird, the way he said it. Right? That was the reason. The question to his answer was off. The answer didn't make sense in that question that he was asking about the mods. This, okay, is a completely different context as the other one. Him saying just classically single players, that's fine. That's still a statement which is true. Mostly classically single player. But talking about the mods and him saying out of nowhere that we're classically single player, like, well, that doesn't make any sense in the context that he was talking about there. It might not be anything. I'm being a little bit biased because I do believe that down the line, based off Todd's own words, not in that interview, off his own words saying that they couldn't monetize people that play the single player games, okay, over 2 years ago. All right. And then Fallout 76 comes out and they're monetizing people with constantly updating with cosmetics shop, with the store itself, with updates. Okay. That is a testing ground. 100%, right? There's also interviews with him and dialogue with him talking about how they were having problems with Starfield and they couldn't get any more workers in. So they made a separate game, Fallout 76. They made it super fast so they could hire more people and then rush through it so he can take those people and then bring them onto Starfield. The mod community make it non-classical single player is how I feel. We'll see. We'll see. I think from Bethesda's point of view, they're looking to make games multiplayer like they still have that single player. This is why I think the single player is still going to be there, but I think that they're going to move it over like a Grand Theft Auto Online type of thing, where it's two separate games in one game, right? You could either log in, click on your single player aspect of the game and go in and play Starfield and do what you want. Then there's going to be a other thing that you can do, a Fallout First type of server where you pay for your own server, okay? Because they know people will pay for it. They do it in Fallout 76 all the time. And then you can have your own like private server, and then you can go in and play with your friends in your galactic universe of Starfield, right? It makes sense to me. It makes sense based on what he said, that they can't monetize people that are on single-player games. They're looking for more ways to monetize. They make a giant game with 1,000 planets in this universe that you can explore. He's talking about water cooler moments where you're like, well, if you go here, you could do this, right? Yeah. We don't live in those days anymore. We don't go to water coolers and talk anymore, right? We're on the internet. We're looking at stuff. People post stuff on Twitter and stuff, and you can go to this planet. You can see this. I think down the line, they're going to have some sort of multiplayer, and again, not MMO, but like 4-player, 12-player max type of thing in your universe. The interview is an AI guy and casual gamer. He's not up to speed on the recent games news, i.e. Xbox timestamp. Starfield Xbox exclusive. Yeah, I'll watch this. I'll watch this later. So like a Starfield online mode? Yeah, I feel like there's going to be something down the line. It makes sense to me. No, you would still have you could still have like the single player aspect of it, right? You could still have the city to go to. It would just act differently. There wouldn't be like single player story elements in the multiplayer section, just like there's not in Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto Online, Red Dead Online, you're still in that persistent world, but you can't go on the single player missions. There's different missions that are separate inside that universe. I might be 100% wrong, but the way I do my show and the way I do my podcast and stuff, I put stuff out there that might be far-fetched, and I would say about 80-85% of the time, the things that I say, they come to fruition. I might be 100% wrong. I'm just speculating. No, I'm speculating. Based on his past interviews, his past statements about what Bethesda and about the single-player games and whatnot. I think it's totally possible to have a co-op / multi-mode. I just think it's too much of being made of Todd using a turn of phrase that seems like a route taking point for him. I mean, I don't think it's too much. I didn't go on Twitter and say, look at this. I didn't post anything like that. Lono thought the same thing as me, and we talked about it on his podcast. But I'm not making a big deal of it. Based on Fallout 76 after Fallout 4. Based on the elements they put in Fallout 4, based on the elements they did in Fallout 76, based on even Redfall that they wanted to make it a microtransaction, and it was supposed to be a live service game. So that would have been a multiplayer game from Bethesda as well. From Elder Scrolls Online, how successful Elder Scrolls Online is with the multiplayer aspect, but that's an MMO. Just in general, Todd talking about how single player games don't make that much money for them anymore, and they have to try to find other ways. It would make sense. You buy Starfield, people that play Starfield. But then when you're done playing Starfield, you make a different character and you play Starfield. But there's 1,000 plans. There's all these other things to search and go for. And I don't know if anyone's ever played No Man's Sky or Star Citizen or what's the other one? Dark Horizon? No, Horizon. I forget what the other one's called. But all space games are really lonely. It's space. But what makes those games better is when you can play with a buddy, a friend, a few friends, because you're exploring. I don't mean it that way. It's like you're harping. I just different ways of putting weight on evidence. Sure. But like I said, when I hear people talk or when I read articles, I don't read it for what it is. I read between the lines. And that's how I make most of my speculations and predictions, and that's how most of the time they come to fruition. My laptop setup looks like it was meant to go into space. Never played a single-player game. Heartbroken that Starfield is single, but I cannot deny my setups need to visit multiple planets. Captain's log, stardate 2024. Still not another soul in sight. Yeah. We're gonna do that when Starfield comes out. We're gonna make a little series. I got to figure out what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it. But we're definitely going to do something and see if it takes off. All right, 12:30. I do appreciate you guys coming out. We've talked about many different things today. We talked about Multiversus, about how they're scummers, and they charged money, and then they took it away, and they'll put it back next year. Multiversus, the fighting game. We talked about the FTC. We just went over a couple of different bullet points and stuff that they did. We didn't take any sides of Xbox or PlayStation. Just talked about how the FTC was trying to use, Nintendo as a stance, but at the same time not using Nintendo. And both sides, Sony and Xbox, they're both using Nintendo, but they don't want to use Nintendo. So it's just funny to me that both these companies, these huge conglomerate companies, they kind of just shoved over Nintendo. We talked about that. We also talked about just Xbox in general, how they were going to buy multiple companies, or they were in a list of many companies. We talked about Octopus on this and UFOs for a little bit. And then we talked a little bit about Todd Howard and the context of what he said about, single player aspects of the community. So lots of stuff. We always talk about random stuff on this show. If you like this is more of a come to my house type of thing. You sit with friends and you sit down and you just start talking about random things. That's what we do here. If you like it, please make sure you hit that like button down below. If you like it, we'll go above and beyond that. You can hit the subscribe button. And if you like to go above and beyond that, you can become a member as little as $5. We do this Monday through Friday from 10 o'clock in the morning to about noon Eastern time. And then other days at night from 8 p.m. to about midnight, we play video games and whatnot. So if you like that, come on back. I appreciate it very much. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys